When it comes to true crime in general, one of the most mysterious subjects, serial killers who were never caught, the ones who got away with it. Over the course of time, becoming a serial killer or a murderer or a criminal of any sort has become much more difficult with surveillance, DNA, and technology in general. But in the 1990s, it was still possible to get away with murder. So let's talk about the 5 most interesting ones to me, starting off with number 5, the Calgary serial killer. In 1986, Jennifer Joyce became a ward of the Canadian province of Alberta when her mother tragically died in a car crash. Now, at 12 years old, all of her teachers said that Jennifer was likely an outstanding pupil to be, an outstanding young woman with a ton of intelligence and unlimited potential. But from a young age, she found herself drawn to the streets, a life of crime, and other things you'd never wish upon your daughter. And in August of 1991, in and out of group homes, eventually from one of her group homes, she vanished and she was never seen alive ever again. Now, this is a tough pill to swallow and unimaginable, thinking that she's only 17 years old out there on the street, but this was not a one-off case in Calgary in the 1990s. In that same time period, to parallel the story, another young woman named Joanne Shaver, a ward of the same province at the same early age. By 12, Joanne was involved in sex work, in and out of group homes, a life of crime, and unfortunately the common theme of young women at this time who didn't have parents left and were in the care of group homes in the province. And after several years in and out of group homes, at the age of just 17 in January 1990, after being reported missing, her body was found on Shepherd Road, assaulted, strangled, and discarded like a piece of garbage on the side of the road for someone else to find. It became clear very quickly these two were probably linked along with more, and whoever was doing it was a disgusting monster. That disgusting monster was thought to be James Arthur Link, who was charged but then acquitted. Although the prime suspect, not enough evidence was gathered to convict him. Again and again, Shauna Vanderbosch, 20, Keely Pincott, 29, Tracy Maunder, 26, all with a similar fate. All of these investigated from 1993 to 1995, and there was one possible suspect, a pimp from Lethbridge, Alberta, named Barry Niedermeyer. Now, Barry was convicted and sentenced to 14 months for trafficking a 14-year-old girl. I'll spare you the details, but this was a disgusting case and it was hard for anybody to read. But after investigation, he was not convicted and he walked free. To this day, we have no idea who committed all of these murders, but it was probably the same person. Moving away from North America, let's talk about number 4, the Forest Maniac. In Samara, Russia, during the 1990s, young couples would often hang out in their cars. When you're young, oftentimes you've got nowhere to go. You can't bring a boy or a girl home to mom and dad's house. And if you've got a car, you go parking to have a little bit of fun. And then you go home before your curfew. But in the 90s, in this part of Russia, some of these couples never made it home. Unknown assailant hid in the bushes, waiting for one of the occupants to get out. Time and time again, a car would roll up, 2 people, usually a man and a woman, and eventually, once one of the occupants would leave, they'd be stabbed to death. The other one, still sitting in the car, left waiting and eventually killed themselves. This started in 1993, and at the beginning, some of them would survive. At the very beginning of the Forest Maniac's terror, a young Russian man with his girlfriend were attacked by the maniac. This was in 1996. The woman was stabbed to death. The man lost consciousness after being stabbed so many times, but regained consciousness and crawled to the highway. A passing motorist found the man, struggling to breathe, struggling for life, performed CPR, saved his life, and once he recovered enough, there was a composite sketch of the perpetrator's face. Again and again, and overall, 10 people were killed. And up until 1998, 1,500 police officers were questioned, as many of the clues indicated it was probably somebody who was involved with the police or worked for the police or maybe a penitentiary. One of these items, a belt with cuffs still attached, was used as a ligature on one of the victims. And after the DNA came back, Dmitry Voroshilov was arrested on July 30th, 1997. Dmitry was a police officer at a penal colony. So thinking that it was a police officer or somebody involved in police work, they hit the nail right on the head. And in 1997, after this news broke, Dimitri was brought in, he was arrested, and he was subject to a polygraph test. Now, polygraph tests were still quite good in 1997, but it was inconclusive. Although the person that was running the polygraph test said, yeah, he probably did it, there wasn't enough evidence to convict him. And when he was brought to trial in 1999, 2 of the survivors couldn't pick him out of a lineup, picked somebody else. Nonetheless, he was still convicted of 2 of the murders. The other ones still he was not convicted of. He did a complete 15-year sentence that he was sentenced to in 1999, and he was released in 2012. The issue is, after he was arrested and he was put in prison, there were still more murders that had the exact same look, the exact same circumstances, and in the same places. Let me know in the comments section below what you think happened. Let's go to Wooch, Poland for number 3. The Wooch Gay murderer. From 1988 to 1993, a man cruised around in Wooch, Poland looking for other gay men to make a connection with. Now, this was not uncommon at the time, and Wooch is a rather large city. And in the city, there weren't conventional gay bars or hangouts for homosexuals to go hang out. So instead, they'd have to cruise around, go to other places, and meet up with each other. And in June of 1988, a 37-year-old man named Stefan was seduced by another man, brought home to his own flat, invited up, and later was found tied and stabbed to death. A year later, another 40-year-old man who had brought up another man for the evening later was found tied up and suffocated. A little bit later, a 50-year-old man tied up and stabbed over and over and over. All of the instruments used to kill these other men were found in the apartments, the flats of the victims. So the perpetrator was going to the victim's house, using what was ever there available, would strangle, suffocate, stab, whatever this man could get his hands on. That's what he would use. The murderer has never been found, and there's never been a real suspect to question, to interrogate, or to go after. This one is a complete cold case. So not to make this video too long, what do you think about the first 3? Should we go on to the next 2? Let me know if you'd like to hear the Unsolved 1990s Serial Killers Part 2. Let me know in the comments section below what you thought about the video. Please do hit like and subscribe because we do videos every weekend. That means I'll see you in the next one.